entrepreneurship is a journey.
Mm.
Like it never ends. It's not like something like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur today and well, tomorrow it's off. No, it's if you start entrepreneurship today, man, you're in it all your life. It will never, ever stop.
Mm.
You have, and when I'm saying entrepreneurship is a journey, I'm also saying be patient. Like, don't believe all the things that you see on social media. And it's most of the entrepreneurs are not that successful.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of the Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as a CEO and founder of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. And if you ever need help with your patents or trademarks, just go to strategymeeting.com and we're always here to help. Now, today we have another great guest on the podcast, Laurent Notin, if I say it correctly. And Laurent is Laurent. I always want to say Laurent, and then I'm going to have that's not right. But Laurent is currently a business coach that's focused on entrepreneurs. So taking a bit of a step back from that, about 20 years ago, he left France, and I think he went to Louis, or I can't remember how to pronounce it, but went there with a business partner. And then when he went there, worked on some small businesses. A year after they hired him, the owners left or went to something else, and he kind of took over running a lot of the business. So fell into entrepreneurship a bit when they decided to turn the business over to him, and then moved, I think, from there to Cambodia, where he worked on a startup, did a little bit of the same thing, where he kind of ended up transitioning, taking over the business, and then left to work at a marketing and advertising company, got a bit of shares there. And then 3 years ago, kind of decided to do his own thing. I think moved back to Finland, more recently, to follow his girlfriend, and then continued his coaching business from there. So, with that much as an introduction, welcome on to the podcast.
Thank you. Well, you can take a breath now.
That's right. It was a quick mouthful. So I went through this kind of a quick, overview of your journey, the 30-second overview, but let's go back a little bit in time. Yep. And tell us a little bit about being in France and then leaving to work with business partner and pick up your journey from there.
Yeah. So I left to Laos. That's
Laos. I was thinking Louise. And I'm Laos.
Yeah, man. I was like 23 and I just finished my studies. And I was looking for a job, and the only jobs I could find was like being a commercial representative, a salesman. And I clearly didn't want to do that. And I was going to job interviews and I sucked so much at job interviews. It was horrible. And then my partner at that time, she was like learning. She was a teacher, but she was teaching French to foreigners, and she had to finish her studies. She had to do like some sort of an internship, and so she found through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She found that they published a list to offer like 80 paid internship positions overseas. She looked at the list and she saw Laos. And she thought, like, nobody will know about Laos. So she put Laos as a first choice, and bam, she got it.
When you're the only one that wants to go to Laos, it's an easy one to get.
Yeah, and that's how we ended up in Laos, initially for 9 months. And well, we fell in love with Asia, and I stayed there in Asia for 20 years.
So now you went to Laos. Now,
yeah.
So you kind of followed then a girlfriend, I assume, or you said partner. But then so you did that, but you moved to Laos, and I assume, and maybe I'm wrong, that you didn't have a ton of connections or a ton of people you knew there. So how did you kind of get into your finding employment, getting a job, kind of working? What did that look like when you're in a new country and don't have any people that you know?
Yeah. So what I did is, before leaving, I contacted the French embassy and I asked them for all the French companies there in Vientiane, the capital. So they sent me a list, and then I sent my CV to all the companies. There weren't a lot, I can tell you. So it was easy to send the CVs to all of them, and just telling them, look, I'm going to move in a very short time to your country. I'm looking for a job. I'll contact you once I reach there. And so we arrived in Laos. I remember it was the 3rd of October, 1999. I still remember that day. And, just spend 1 week just, getting used to this new environment. The first time in Asia, in a country that was an emerging country, there was no roads, for example. When we arrived in Vientiane, it was a bit of a shock, the heat, the mosquitoes, everything. And after a week, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take my list and, I'm going to contact them, those companies that I sent my CV to. And the first company was this small research agency called Inside Asia. And I called them and they say, yeah, come and have a talk with us. And so we talk. And at the end of the conversation, they're like, look, you can work with us if you want, but we're not going to pay you a lot. We can pay you like $250 a month. And I was like, my business, my partner, she has a good money. I don't need really the money, but I do need the experience. I do need to start with a job. And I started. I said, yes, let's do it. And this small research agency, 10 staff. They had all low people. So most of them were talking English. And they hired me as like some sort of a project manager first. That's how it happened.
So now you worked. So you stayed in Laos for quite a while. You mentioned, I think it was
6.5 years.
6.5 years. And then, so as you were, and then you found, I love the story of how you found the job, and that's great. You just kind of have, hey, here's a list. I'll go through it, and that's where I'll start because I don't have anywhere else to start. So why not? So, and I think you mentioned with that business, you kind of had the owners that were wanting to move on, do something else or otherwise. So they kind of handed you the keys, so to speak, of the business or had you take over. So how was that, making that transition? And was it fun and enjoyable and exciting, or was it overwhelming and, didn't know how to do it, or kind of how was that as a transition in your job?
It was like, my first reaction was like, really? Me? But I was 24. I had absolutely no confidence in myself. But I liked market research. I'm kind of an analytical person. So, and market research I thought was matching my skills. And they just said like this. They said, look, we're going to move to Cambodia. We need someone to run the business. There's nobody else but you. So basically, they gave me the keys of the company because they did not really have the choice. I was there. I was the only one there available. They did not trust me, to be clear. I didn't trust myself, but I said, all right, let's do it. But they gave me a little bit of a raise, I think. And I just started. And then it was like, whoa, I like it. Like it was like really a breakthrough. Like I was put into this management role suddenly, running a company. They asked me to send them a report every week, like a very detailed report. Like it was a bit of a micromanagement. And I just enjoyed it. So I don't remember struggling. I just remember like really enjoying it and having to learn, but it was fascinating.
So now you first of all, you get thrown into it, and apparently they had more confidence, or they did, as you said, didn't have any other alternatives. So they said you're our best choice, so to speak. But you kind of dive into that, get going on it, and try it out, and you do that for a period of time, and then I think that and I think you mentioned that you kind of had to turn around the business. You made it profitable, and you actually got it up or continued to make it to work, and then you moved over to Cambodia. So kind of what prompted the move to Cambodia, and how did you make that transition?
Yeah, so Cambodia, that was like 6.5 years ago, 6.5 years after Laos. And basically I was reaching a point where I was turning into circles. I was getting a bit bored. Laos is a very small country, and I was working for a small company. And so I needed to change. But my partner, she had a great job. She really enjoyed her job. So she didn't want to move.
Mm.
And when I was working for this small market research agency in Laos, there was one of our clients was another research agency that was in Cambodia.
Mm.
And we were doing we were doing what we call the field work for them. So they will send, they will find the clients, but they didn't have any resources in Laos. So they would use our resources to do the field work and ask the questions to the consumers.
Mm.
And one day, so I got to know one of the owners of the company. And one day, I remember it was around Christmas. So Merry Christmas to me, basically. I received an email out of the blue from the owner of the company. He said, "Hey, I just lost my research director. Do you want the job?" And he sent me the contract with all the details and everything. So I was like, "Oh, that is very interesting." And I said, "Yes."
Mm.
And that's how I left to Cambodia.
Mm.
It's very interesting because I never had to look for a job except the first time, like 20 years ago.
Hmm. So now you move to Cambodia, you take that over, and I think that as we chatted a bit before the podcast, kind of similar to the other job in Luis, you kind of ended up taking over the business, or doing a little bit of the same thing of they were transitioning out, and you kind of took it over. So how was that the second time as opposed to the first time?
So the business in Cambodia was bigger, and by then they also opened an office in Laos. So they had an office in Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. So I joined a business with at that time maybe like 40 staff, something like that. And so I joined as a research director. So the guy was basically in charge of all the projects and the client service.
Mm.
But in reality, I was also the director, the managing director, because my boss, who was one of the owner of the company too, was super busy doing his own stuff.
Mm.
And so gradually he was just giving me more responsibilities without really acknowledging that,
Mm.
but I was taking them. And gradually I was telling him, look, maybe we should do this kind of things like that. Maybe we should do this like this, or maybe you should get out and don't take care of that project. And so it happens gradually until he made it like official, until he said, oh, okay, you're going to take my role. You're going to become the managing director of the Cambodian office. So that's what happened. And from there, I spent 8 years working for this company. I loved every moment of it. I learned so much. It was fantastic.
And so, no, and that it's always fun, I think that, be able to run or manage or otherwise, do a business is always a fun and exciting. It's a different experience every time. I mean, even as you said, you kind of did this twice, but every experience is different.
Yes.
It's a different business, different setup, different arrangement, different culture, different everything. And so I think that's always kind of the fun and exciting part. And then you figure out how to build it, how to grow it, how to make it successful, and, have or ride those ups and downs. So now you worked with Cambodia for a while, and then I think after that you switched over and started doing marketing and advertising company, and did that for a period of time.
Yeah. So I went to Vietnam. So I was in Cambodia. I went to Vietnam and then came back. And then when I came back from Vietnam, I started working for this other company. So basically, another entrepreneur. I always work for entrepreneurs, and and same, didn't have to look for the job. I was like, he was telling me, look, I have all these businesses, and one of them is the research, this marketing agency. I can't manage all the businesses. I need someone. I can't pay you what you want, but I can give you shares. And so I needed a change. So I said, yes, let's do that. It was starting from going back to a smaller business into a more of an industry that I knew a little bit about, but not too much. So I accepted the challenge, because it's always about the challenge, And so that's really my first taste about being some sort of an entrepreneur.
No, I think that's fun and exciting. So, and you did that for now a period of time. Now,
Yeah.
remind me. So you were doing that for a while, and then you kind of got into more of the coaching aspect. So, how did you
Yes.
kind of transition from doing kind of the marketing and sales and getting some shares in the company and working for the startup to saying, okay, I've done this enough. I'm finally going to start my own thing. Kind of what prompted that, or how did you transition over there?
Yeah. So I worked for this agency for 4.5 years, more or less.
Mm,
And inside me, I had this feeling growing and growing that, I need to do something for me. It's time. I think it's that I always been in contact with entrepreneurs. I've always worked with entrepreneurs. I have a friend in Laos, a very good friend who's also an entrepreneur. It's always been pushing me. It was like, what are you waiting for? Just do something for yourself.
mm,
And I was reaching the age of 40. And I'm like, man, if I don't do this, if I don't do anything now, I will never do it.
mm,
So that was a long maturing process. But once I got there, it took me maybe another year to decide what is it that I want to do. Because being an entrepreneur, fine, but I had to find out what is that what I'm really good at.
mm,
And so I did a lot of introspection. I look at my career, at what I was enjoying the most, and I realized that what was, when I was at my best was
mm,
when I was training, mentoring, coaching my staff. Like I loved all these moments, and I do remember a lot of them. All these moments, they give me the goosebumps.
mm,
And I also realized that I was born to help other people. Like I always care more about other people than myself.
mm.
And so I'm like, yeah, there must be something around it. And then I go on vacation, and I was in August 2017. I am at my parents, and one morning, it's true, it happened like that. One morning, I woke up, and I'm like, I found it. I know I'm gonna be a business coach. And
Simple as that.
so,
Just wake up. I've decided what I'm going to do,
yeah,
and now I got to figure out how to do it. Right.
yeah. And that morning, I wrote an email to my boss and business partner, and I
Mm,
told him, look, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna start my own thing. I'm gonna leave in October. And he said, yeah, I'm not surprised. You've been talking about it for a while.
mm. So he was supportive or saw the writing on the wall, but that's a great
Yes.
thing, and having a partner that's saying, "Hey, appreciate all the work you've done. I see that you're wanting to do something else. I support you all the way. Good luck," and kind of much better than being frustrated or mad. So that's awesome that your partner took that well and was supportive.
Yeah, and it was even they became one of my first clients too.
Oh, cool.
So that was another way of supporting me.
So now you finally have kind of this epiphany. Okay, I'm going to go into doing coaching and training, and that's what I love and enjoy. And so you do that, and you said, okay, gonna let my business partner know I'm gonna go explore that. Now, how did you take that from an idea or take that from a business? How did you get it going or started or kind of build that?
Yeah. So the first thing I did was to think about, okay, there is business coaching and business coaching. So what sort of business coach I want to be? I knew I had to specialize. So again, I look at what I'm good at, what I've been doing, and the skills I've developed throughout my career.
Hmm.
And there were elements like business strategy that I enjoy, leadership, of course, of building a team and having people follow you,
Hmm.
sales. I got a strong background in B2B sales.
Hmm.
And then also I was thinking, okay, who do I want to coach? Who would be my ideal client? And it made sense that they would be entrepreneurs, because I always worked for entrepreneurs, because before becoming one, when they gave me the keys, and that's it. They didn't give me the money to support the business, So I had to learn everything by myself. They were kind of mentoring me. Yes, I was not alone, but it was my company. And it has always been like that. I always had the feeling that it was my companies, to the point that people were like my clients or people I knew, they were always asking me, but is it your company? Because I was speaking like it was my company. And so I thought, I speak the entrepreneur language. I sat in their seats. I've gone through the same pain. I've gone through the same successes. So I think I can help them. So that's how I decided that I'm going to be a business coach. I'm going to help entrepreneurs make sense of all that thing that is entrepreneurship.
So now you kind of find your niche. You say, okay, this is where I'm going to focus. This is where I'm going to coach. So now how do you build a coaching business, or how did you build that around that? Meaning, did you start to reach out to your network and say, this is what I'm doing? Do you have any need for this? Or do you have any leads, or do you cold call people, or you email them, or website and SEO, or kind of how did you kind of take that idea in that niche now and build it into a business?
Yeah. So I was in Cambodia when I launched. We are in October 2017, and I lived there for 14 years, so I knew a lot of people. And so that's what I did. I reached out to my network. I knew who I wanted to target, and so entrepreneurs. So I look at my network, and I just started reaching out to all my network of entrepreneurs, telling them, hey guys, can we just chat around a coffee or have a lunch? I'm starting this new venture. Would you like to know about it? And some said no, and some said yes. And basically, this is how I started. And because they knew me, they already had the trust was already established. So it was a little bit easier. And this is how I got my first clients.
So, and I think that's cool. One of the interesting, I think that, starting with the network you have or the people, it's always, it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's people that, you can get feedback, and it's, a national network that you can get things launched. And yet on the other hand, so often people are kind of almost a bit scared in the sense, hey, I don't want to ruin friendships or relationships or anything else. And it's always a bit backward in the sense that most people, they're your friends, they're your, they want you to succeed. They want you to be successful. And if they can help you along the way, it's always a great resource and a great way to get things going. So I think that while it can be sometimes a bit scary to reach out to them, to your point, it's a great way to get things started. And it sounds like it worked well for you. So now as that kind of brings us up to where you're at today. And if you're to look now kind of the next 6 to 12 months, kind of what does that look like? Where are things heading?
Okay. Well, I think first I have to tell you that I was in Cambodia and I left to Finland. And then by the same time, pretty much at the same time, like 6 months after, COVID hit. So basically I took a big slap in the face. So it was a new country where I had no network, and COVID really affected me. So I really had to rethink about the business and how I approach people. And what for me this year is really about is I want to be more visible, because I have this goal in my mind. My dream is that I become the Simon Sinek of entrepreneurship. I always compare to Simon Sinek because I love Simon Sinek.
I'm right there with it. He has some great material and great information.
Yeah, I'm reading his last book right now, The Infinite Game. It's crazy. And so I have this big dream of becoming, a thoughtful leader for everything that is that touch entrepreneurship. My tagline is cracking the entrepreneurship code. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to crack the entrepreneurship code, and I want a lot of people to know about that. I want to help entrepreneurs because I believe there are ways to do entrepreneurship right. Yes, I know every entrepreneur is different because of the personality. So every company will be different. Sure, guaranteed. But you find some commonalities, and that's what I'm trying to crack. I'm trying to find what makes an entrepreneur, what makes a successful entrepreneur, and I want to share that with the maximum number of entrepreneurs out there.
Mm. No, and I think that's a great direction ahead. And I love Simon Sinek, by the way. I loved it. He has a lot of interesting information, a lot of insights. But I think that take that and say, here's my goal. I'm going to be the Simon Sinek, so to speak, of entrepreneurs and help them
Mm.
along the way. Goals. I think that it gives you direction and gives you a place to then say, this is now I've got my goal. Now let's work backwards and figure out how to do that. So I think that's awesome. So well, now as we start to reach towards the end of the podcast, I always ask two questions towards the end of the podcast. So we'll transition and jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, oh, there's so many. Wow. Um, I think the worst decisions always are around people.
Mm,
I think like decisions around not hiring the right person because I was too much in a rush. Like I was
mm,
rushing to hire someone, and instead of taking my time to hire the right person, I had someone, who was there because I needed to fill in a position, and I
mm.
always paid the price for that. But
And
the opposite, yeah, go
no,
on.
no, I was gonna say, I think that is an easy mistake to make, in the sense that you're in a business, you're saying, hey, I got to get this going, I need this covered, I'm overwhelmed, or I need to get everything done, and I don't do it. So then you rush to find someone to fill the position because you need someone. And yet if you're taking a step back, that's too often when you're rushing decisions or rushing to hire, they're never a good, never a good or good hire, because they may not be the right fit. And it's not even the fault of the person you hired. It's just that you didn't vet them enough, or you didn't make sure that everything lines up. So I think that that's definitely one that is an easy mistake, because you're saying, hey, I need assistance, I need help, and so let's hire someone, and you rush too quickly. So I think that
Yeah,
definitely makes sense.
and I wanted to add. Sorry, David.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that the opposite also was like, when you need, there are moments where the people you're working with, we are not in harmony anymore,
Mm,
and you need to do something about that. And that many times I haven't done it fast enough. You know,
mm,
no, it's not necessarily about telling the person, well, I'm sorry, I have to let you go, but at least having a conversation with the person and saying, look, I can see something is wrong here. Are you happy? Are you still doing what you're supposed to be doing? Because if
mm.
you're not, there's no reason for you to stay with us.
Yep. No, and I agree. And I think that, because if they're not happy, if they're not excited about the job, if they're not doing it well, you take a productivity hit. They're not happy, and it's not a good situation to be in. So I love that. Let's check in with them. If you can see that there's a shift or a change or anything else, if you can address it, and if you can't, then it's at least hit it head on and see how you can best help them to transition to something that they will be excited about. So now I'm going to jump to the second question, which is, if you're now, talking to someone that's just getting into a startup or small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
That's easy. Entrepreneurship is a journey.
Hmm.
Like it never ends. It's not like something like, oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur today, and well, tomorrow it's off. No, it's, if you start entrepreneurship today, man, you're in it all your life. It will never ever stop.
Hmm.
You have, and when I'm saying entrepreneurship is a journey, I'm also saying be patient.
Hmm.
Like, don't believe all the things that you see on social media. And it's most of the entrepreneurs are not that successful. A lot of them don't
And
want to
even,
be that
I'd,
successful.
I'd even add that even the ones that are successful, social media or movies or televisions or books, you get the highlight reel, right? You get to hear, well, I did all these things, and then started this business as an overnight success. And it's never that way. And it's always an overnight success. It's really 10 years in the making. And even like your journey and everybody else that's been on the podcast, everybody has the things that led up to it, whether it's, taking over other people's businesses, going to different places, building that network, getting ideas, figuring everything out. And there's always that journey. And I think, to your point, it is a journey, and it's not this, hey, I'm going to have this great idea. I'm going to throw it up on a website and everybody's going to pay me millions of dollars. It doesn't work out that way. And
Nope.
even though that's what it looks like on social media and movie and television and everything else.
True, but it's not like that at all.
Exactly.
I like to compare entrepreneurship as to look at entrepreneurship like it is an iceberg. So everybody sees the tip of the iceberg, but we all forget about what we don't see, what is underwater. That's what entrepreneurship is like.
I completely agree on that, or 100%. So, well, now as we wrap up, and I think that's some great pieces of advice and things to learn from. But as we wrap up, if people want to find out more, they want to be a client of yours and a coaching client, they want to hire you, they want to reach out to you, find out more, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you and find out more?
All right, so they can go on my website, laurentnotin.com. They can reach out on LinkedIn, same name, or by email, contact@laurentnotin.com. And I offer, for those people who want to try business coaching, entrepreneurs who want to try business coaching, I offer 1-hour discovery sessions.
Awesome. Well, I definitely encourage everybody, and that's just your first name last name.com,
Yes.
or contact@firstnamelastname.com. So make it easy for people, just in case they didn't catch it with the accent, which I love the accent. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Now, all of you listeners, that if you have your own journey to tell and you'd love to be, or want to come on the podcast and share it, we'd love to have you. Just go to inventiveguest.com and apply to be on the podcast. Also, if you're a listener, make sure to click subscribe in your podcast player so you can get notifications as all of our awesome episodes come out, and leave us a review so new people can find us and find out more about everybody's journeys. Last but not least, if you ever need help with your patents, trademarks, or anything else related to your business, feel free to reach out to us by going to strategymeeting.com, and we're always here to help. Thank you again, Laurent. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Well, thank you very much, Devin. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Absolutely.